Okay, so when I was told that I might be giving a speech here, my original idea was that I'm going to be speaking to a group of high school students. But you guys don't look like high school students. So I think my main concern at this point is whether this is going to relate to you. So you do have my full permission to take a nap. And when I get around to introducing my dog, then you can wake up, okay? All right, so we're talking about, let me get my stuff. There we go. So first one, I'm talking about fear. Fear is something that we all face, and for many students, fear is a natural part of life. They have a sense of fear about what's going to happen, what kind of grade am I going to get in my classes, or what school am I going to go to. And this is a feeling of fear that is about failure. And it's a failure that relates to parents, to their friends, to their careers, their future. What is this? This represents a letter. It's a cuneiform tablet. It's 3,800 years old. It was written by Yin Xin. Yin Xin was a boy. He'd been sent away to school. 3,800 years ago, if you're sent away from school, you don't go home on the weekends to visit your family. So what was he writing about? First, he wrote to his mother. Was he writing about the wonderful weather? Maybe he's talking about being a great student. No, it wasn't about that. Perhaps he was saying he was having conflicts with his fellow students. Maybe he was being bullied. Or maybe he was complaining about his terrible teachers. Let's find out. What did he write? He said, "May the gods Shamash and Marduk always keep you in good health." That's a good greeting to his mother. He says, "From year to year, the clothes of young gentlemen here improve, but you let my clothes deteriorate. In fact, you insist on making my clothes poorer and sparser. My classmate, Adad Idanam, whose father is merely an assistant to my father, has 2 new sets of clothes, while you barely give me 1. His mother loves him more than you love me." Adid was not very happy. He was angry. But his anger relates to a fear. He was afraid that he would not look as good as his classmates. But that really intended what? He was afraid that his mother did not love him. How about you? What do you talk to your parents about? Carl Jung taught that fear often signals areas where we need to grow. He said, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." And what that means is that avoidance strengthens fear, whereas confrontation diminishes its power. What do you have to confront? As I said, I thought that many of you would be the high school students. Perhaps you're going to be graduating this year or next. And I think many of you would be international students. And so you're not just worried about your career, your future, what you study, but where you will be in the world. For some of you, these questions might encourage you. They might guide you into thinking of new ways, but for others, you're concerned. You might be afraid. Growth is a series of restarts. I faced the same questions when I was growing up, but in a very different way. I pivoted from California to Scotland, and then from entrepreneurship in Taiwan to the high-pressure world of USC film, and then coming here. I grew up in California. That's me. Primary school. I did middle school, high school, and university all there. When I was young, I wanted to be a writer. I loved the idea of telling stories, and I loved movies. So I ended up going to the University of California, and I chose to live in a dorm that was focused on international studies. And my dorm mate was from Vietnam. He was a refugee. He had moved over when he was 15 years old, so he'd only been in California for about 3 years, and we had difficulty talking to each other. His English was not very good. But I can tell you one thing. I never met a student who studied harder than he did. He graduated from the School of Engineering, and then he transferred over to medical school, and today he's a cardiologist. And he and I still write letters to each other. I met another friend, another one of my dorm mates, and he was joining the University of California Education Abroad program, and he was going to go to England. And I thought, now that's a cool idea. That's interesting. I'd never thought of doing something like that. I could go overseas and study. And so I applied to the program, and I was accepted and went to St. Andrews University in Scotland. Okay. The department I studied in was history, and the history department building, where we had classes, was actually 600 years old. And so I traded my California sun to horizontal rain and 600-year-old stone walls. It was a bit of a change, I would say. I went from being a local to being a complete outsider. And this was discomfort. And that was my first real growth spurt. It challenged me that life could be so different. I ended up hitchhiking. I was actually tried hitchhiking around the UK. And as I was walking over a hill in Scotland, it was May 24th, right? Right now it's the end of May. It was May 24th. I was walking over this hill in Scotland, and I got caught in a blizzard. I was alone on the road. I was looking around. There were no other people. I couldn't see any cars. There were no houses. There was just a flock of sheep running through the snow. And I thought, it's May 24th. It's snowing, and there's nobody around. I was afraid I was going to freeze to death. I didn't, okay? I'm still here. But I spent my vacation time traveling around Europe, and then Israel and Egypt. And then I went back to California for 1 more year to finish my university studies. But my time in Scotland had opened a door for me. It got me thinking, and I decided that I would like to explore the opportunity of working and living around the world. It was like opening a window. So I joined a company that was training instructors for language and business and sending them to China. So I was placed at the Chinese Academy of Sciences up in Changchun, which is northeast China. It's right near the North Korean border. And the winter there is freaking cold. It gets down to -30. And for this California boy, that was a big challenge. The other thing is, at that time in China, there is very little choice in food. There were no supermarkets. Most foods you couldn't just easily buy. Many of our main products, you had to have a ration card in order to get them. This included things like rice and sugar. You just couldn't buy it. So what they did for the Northeast there, the main winter vegetable was cabbage. cabbages. And so they harvested the cabbages in September, October, and they lined the streets. I remember because I just got there, I was walking down the street, they literally lined the streets, these huge boulevards, just lines of walls of cabbage. And if you don't believe me, and so if you don't like them going tall, you can also lay them flat. So there was cabbage everywhere. What do we do with all this cabbage? Well, we pickled it, right? It was like kimchi for the winter. And I can tell you one thing, this is an excellent diet method. My teammates and I all lost weight. So it worked out that. So after doing that for 2 years, I decided to leave China, the mainland China at that time, and I went to Taiwan. And so I spent a couple of years teaching language, just kind of fumbling around doing some language teaching. And then I decided I really want something different, I want to do something more. I wanted to be a little different from the other language teachers who were just working here and there. I actually wanted to establish a school, an actual language school. And so what I did is I moved to, there's a group of islands between Taiwan and mainland China here called Penghu. So I moved to the Penghu Islands, and I went to the government and I said, I'd like to establish a school. And they said, no. They said, foreigners cannot start a school. I was like, okay, that's too bad. So I waited around a while, did some other stuff, and came back to the government. I said, really, I'd like to establish a school. And they said, no, foreigners cannot establish a school. I said, well, tell you what, can you show me the regulations, please? And so they gave me the regulations, which are all in complicated Chinese characters. And so I read through them, and I found what might be a loophole. And so I went through the whole application process, and I'm not going to, it's a very long, very complicated thing. I don't want to explain it to you. But in the end, the government came to me and said, you are the first foreigner in Taiwan to establish a school. I said, hey, that's pretty cool, that's fun. And so I started using different methods to teach the students, and a bunch of my students ended up winning English language speaking contests. And we also, a bunch of them went off and they took the national language examinations, and they passed those. And then we were putting on these huge productions in the theater, theatrical productions, doing like English plays. And the main theater, we filled it up with 1,000 people. And so I became a little bit popular. And so I started thinking, well, what else can I do now? So I said, well, I'd like to design and build a house on the coast. And so I built this house on the coast there, and the top floor of it actually functions as a bed and breakfast inn, and so that was good. And I was thinking, well, what else can I do? Our island didn't have anything in the range of like steak and pizza, so I said, okay. I started a steak and pizza restaurant. That was good. And then I was thinking, well, now what? I began wondering what I wanted to do next. And so my old love came back to me, okay? As I mentioned, from youth, I wanted to be a writer and tell stories, and I adored movies. And while I was at university, I took a filmmaking class, and I made this mini epic movie based on the old English tale of Beowulf. Now, if we've got English students here, you might know about the story of Beowulf. And so that was an incredibly difficult thing. I mean, I worked so hard on making this movie. I put in far more work than I ever put in any other university class. It was extremely difficult, and I can tell you one thing, I loved it. It was amazing. And so all these years went by, and I'm now sitting in Penghu, and I'm thinking, well, can I change my life again? So I did some research. I looked at what are the best graduate programs for filmmaking, and the University of Southern California came out on top. I said, well, if I'm going to completely change my life, I want to shoot for the best. So I only applied to one school, and that was USC. And I was very surprised when they said yes. Now, this is not a standard master's degree program. Most master's programs are 1 or 2 years. The MFA is 3 years, and it's 3 years of very hard work. And I went in there, I studied as hard as I could, I learned so much. After I graduated, I then put in 2 years to film and to create a feature documentary film about Scotch whiskey. The film was a success. It went off to 15 international film festivals, and then it got distribution in theatrical distribution and whatnot in North America, the UK, Ireland, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Australia, New Zealand. It also played on a bunch of international airlines, including Cathay Pacific, Korea Airline, United, these things, and then also on some cruise ships, because one of my friends contacted me and said, oh, we're on a cruise ship and we're watching your movie. I said, okay, that's cool. So, let's see, going on. Now, if you had asked, and so after that, then I got hired here by BNBU to come and teach filmmaking to college students, and that's what I've been doing for the past 11 years. And I've continued making films. Now, if you had asked 18-year-old me at UC Davis where I would be in 2026, I certainly would not have said Zhuhai, because I could not have even pointed this place out on a map. There's no way I could know I'd be here. No, it was a challenge and real growth that took me across oceans. It took me from being a student to a language teacher to a businessman to a grad school student for film, and now here as a professor. And I'm telling you this because many of you are terrified of picking the wrong path or the wrong major. And you think that if you change your mind, maybe you've failed. But look at my map. It is a series of pivots. As you move toward graduation and whatever comes next, let me tell you what you are not. Okay? You are not tied to an ABC on a transcript. You are not, or what they say, not everyone will love you, and that's okay. And finally, life is not a one-way line. You are dynamic. You are a work in progress. You should be ready to change. You are the director of your own movie, your life. And don't think of it as a feature film where you have to follow a script. It's a documentary. It's a work in progress. Oh, and one last thing before I say bye-bye, and that is learn to love your friends. Who are your friends? Who's your best friend? Here's one of my best friends, the best husky in the world. All right, thank you.